So I work at Seneca Park Zoo in Rochester, New York, quite a ways away from New York City. If you're familiar with the state, we're actually closer to Canada than we are New York. And we are one of the oldest zoos in the United States. We've been one of the largest conservation organizations in New York State for quite some time. And my job specifically is around programming and conservation action. So I am really tied into, if you come into our zoo or interact with a guest or donate money, we create these actions for you or on your behalf. And we work on behalf of the wildlife that we have at the Seneca Park Zoo. So we have a Madagascar exhibit at the zoo. So we really try to support organizations and conservation in Madagascar. If you're not familiar with where it is, it's on the east coast of Africa. I've been there now 3 or 4 times. I go pretty much every year since COVID has hit. I haven't been, but my last trip was in January of 2020. It's quite easy to see that you've only got a couple strips of green in the island. It is a very, very interesting island in that the animals, for the most part, are endemic, meaning that they're found nowhere else on the planet. But when you have 90% of the country deforested, that suitable habitat becomes really, really limited. When you come in, just to give you the lay of the land, you fly into a city called Antananarivo. We call it Tana for short. You'll notice that a whole lot of vowels is pretty much the going thing in Madagascar, and the way that they name people. Sometimes they have 30, 40 letters in their last name. So it becomes very hard if you see the cities and the towns labeled around here. Incredibly hard to find out, where you are or where you're going based on those names. Most of our work is in the southeast quadrant of the country. In order to get down to this location, which is Renamafan National Park, there's a road that comes down through this area. It's really the only road that runs north and south through the country. So you're looking at all the traffic, all the pollution, everything that comes with all that traffic. And it's about a 10.5-hour trip. To give you a little bit of a view of what most of the country looks like, very hilly, very mountainy, terraced landscape everywhere you go. Rice is the main export crop, and there's basically 2 crops per year. So you're working about 150 days per year to get 2 harvests. But this is what most of the country looks like. Incredibly poor as far as income and GDP. This is pretty much the normal setup for people. No vehicles, very little electricity. Most rural areas of this country make about $1 a day income. So that becomes pretty problematic when you think of any capacity building. Again, really simple living without much, but everywhere that you go along the way, this back area with these mountains is pretty representative of what most of the country looks like for tree cover. And even when you have that few of trees, this is a reoccurring site. And that 10.5-hour trip, at any point in time, you'll see over 100 fires burning on the way down through this road. This lumber is used for building supplies, and this is the trees that get cut down for charcoal. So this is ultimately going to be a charcoal resource for probably a city somewhere. So basically they go out, harvest all the trees that they can, bring it alongside the road, and then sell that. Trucks pick it up and take it to where it's needed. But again, you're looking at this type of area where these piles are there, and you see these piles endlessly as you go down through through that road on that trip. And the point in showing this is really to show you that the reforestation and creating healthy forests is really a multi-layered project, and it really needs to be a community project when we work on these. Just another image of one of the fires. This is actually a farmer getting ready to work this part of the land. But I'll tell you, panther chameleons, ground boas, things like that, they'll live in just these little small pockets in islands of trees and go in between. So even these types of fires are killing quite a bit of the biodiversity that's on the island. The other main problem or reason for people cutting down trees is for essential oils. So if you have any eucalyptus or any of the essential oil vials that you can get and buy. This is the output of a still, and this is an illegal still that is right along the main road that continues to run. Every time I go by, it's there. But you can see that these little tiny stems, when things are growing and they're kind of filled with water and small still and youthful, that's when they harvest. So they don't even get to the size of bushes or shrubs. Really, it's pretty crazy the amount of people that are cutting things down. And you find that is, again, pretty much on that constant trip all the way down. Same type of story everywhere you go. Our work, and I think somebody in one of the channels posted a bio of Dr. Patricia Wright. She's one of our partners in Madagascar, and this is the field station that she's created. This field station is called Central Valbio, and it is phenomenal field station. This is the living quarters, classroom. This is looking up into Renamafon National Park. This is the mess hall, or where you eat, over here, and then Renamafon National Park. 35 years ago, this was all terraced and all deforested, just like the other areas that I talked about or showed you before. This is about 25 years of growth. And in that 25 years, a whole lot of biodiversity and wildlife has come back. We've done biosurveys and different things in this area. And as I said, there's also a lab on site, so we can do biosecurity level 2. This was converted into a COVID test lab over the past year, and is only the second COVID testing site in Madagascar outside of the capital city. So it's a really amazing facility. We've been supporting them for like 35 years in this location. And this is also where our reforestation starts. So when we reforest, we'll go out into an area, much like Renamafon National Park, which is, I think, like 26,000 square miles or so, something like that around this area. We'll go down and geolocate the host trees that we want to work with. And they might be through this whole area. And once we find a host tree, we go through and collect all the information. This is Dominique and this is Mahandri, two of the people on the reforestation team with us. And they found a host tree here, and they're going through and doing things like diameter at breast height. They're counting the leaves and keeping all of this information on. As you can see, back when I first went there, it's on paper. Now we do it with smartphones and actually register it on Stellar with our partner Task.io, which some of you may be familiar with. And here's Dominique, you can see, with some of the seeds. So we collect all those seeds, we mark where we take them, we weigh them, we count how many they are, and then they get warehoused. This is just one of the seed balls from one of those trees. And these are trees that really have beneficial ecosystem services. So things like, they can help build houses, or they have fruit involved, or there's something that it fixes the soil around there. Any of those ecosystem services are what we really look for. So once we collect those, we take them down to the nursery. And so this is basically what the nursery will look like that we're going to build with all of you. This is the town of Renamafon, and this yellow box here is the Renamafon nursery. And I will just give you some video. This is of January 2020. And this is pretty much exactly what it'll look like and how we build it. So we create this common area, hire 2 to 3 people full-time, along with 1 manager. And once we get those seeds and they get warehoused, they come, we create all of these little shaded structures that will keep the saplings from direct sunlight, and then plant them and basically raise them over the course of about 8 months, into the point that they're going to become, or at least we'll be relatively sure that they're going to live on their own. They've got a little bit hardiness to them at that point in time. They're not just like direct sowing, which is one of the things when you're looking at like some of the drone programs that just spit the seeds out. That's direct sowing, and they don't even really get below the soil in the most part. They have a really low chance of succeeding. As long as we choose a proper location with a proper species of tree, then the success rate goes really, really high comparatively, along with having people support that. So this is a pricking out box, it's called. Those seeds, like I showed you with Dominique, they throw them into that box until they start to sprout out and prick out. At that point, then they're moved over to what unfortunately right now is plastic bags. We're working on a sustainable fiber, but you can see all those plastic bags. It's a terrible, terrible thing that we're working on a solution. But it's so easy for them to get plastic bags that they've just decided to use that. So we're working on some new ways to create sustainably sourced pots at that point in time. And not all of these trees are native in this. This is a national nursery that's split with one of ours. So it's half us, half them. We only plant endemic trees, meaning that they're native to Madagascar and nowhere else. So because they're native, they can be drought resistant and provide all all those ecosystem services that we need. Once they leave a nursery, they go out into the field, and this is a small town called Mbombe, and I visited here a couple times now at this point. When I was here, we didn't know that we were going to reforest over in this area, but to give you an idea of some of the things that we pull out so we can tell these stories, and we're going to do similar things with you all, this is a drone photogrammetry scan, which is taking forever to load, and it's Sketchfab, so the quality is not real great. But we do take drones over and UAVs, and we do scans of the land and look at the soil composition, and we use AWS and some of those other cloud computing tools to help us correctly identify spots that we should actually plant. But we've partnered with RIT, which is Rochester Institute of Technology, and we have access to one of the best UAV schools in the world. Really, they go from undergraduate up to PhD students. But for us, when we look at coming out to reforest an area like this, it's really about the people that we're affecting and that we're working with. And so when we go through, we actually hire locals to work in this area, prep the sites, transport the saplings with us, and help us plant them. And then we give them free education. We give them free healthcare. We work with the kids through school so they get to understand how important a healthy forest is. But these are the people that, they're making $1 a day. So for us to be able to, in some cases, triple, quadruple, or quintuple that amount of money for them to do a job that doesn't have them being net negative when they're done. Like I told you about the rice that they grow. In Mbombe, that rice is too expensive for them to eat locally, so they export it, take that money, and then buy an inferior rice from Pakistan. So they're making $150 per year on a hectare of rice that they're exporting that could be good nutrition levels for them in order to buy something cheap. We take all of that information for all those people that we're hiring. We take all of the GPS coordinates for the trees, all of the data on those trees in images, and bring that back to you all as well. So we try to paint the picture of what a 360-degree image of the conservation impact is that you're creating. And in doing so, we bring a lot of metadata back in. So when we look at where we're going to plant the first JPEG DAO nursery, we're going up to a small town called Kiranamina in kind of the north central plateau of Madagascar. And as you can see, there's very, very little green in this location. It's not all meant to be reforested, but about 30,000 square miles of this area has been deforested over time. And specifically, we're coming to Kiranamina because our project manager, briefly saw him with the nursery, his name is Mahandre, is actually from Kiranamina. And when you really zoom into this area, no electricity, no running water, it's properly out in kind of the middle of nowhere. And it really is a desert as far as trees are concerned. This whole area used to be a forest. There used to be lemurs there. Mahandra is about 25 years old, and he's never seen forests around his house and never seen lemurs around his house because they haven't been here. He actually grew up in this little longer house right here. Both his parents were educators in this town. And so it really means a lot for us because as we create this first nursery in this location, we're going to radially move out from this area and really try to reforest this whole area that is Mahandre's home area. And to my knowledge, there's nobody doing any reforestation around this area at all. So I know a few of you are artists, and you were interested in some of the species. I'll give this to you all at some point here, in the short future. But if you're interested in any of these, feel free to write them down right now. These are some of the genus and species. So this is the actual species that we'll use in this location. And then anything in the parentheses here is the family group name with some of the uses that they have.